What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel, and I am recording this on Turkey Day. Really sure if I want to upload it on Turkey Day or on Friday because there will be college football games happening again on Friday or today, again, whenever this video goes up. So if this is being uploaded on Thanksgiving, happy Turkey Day. Again, third video today. I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy day. If it is uploading on Friday, hey, really appreciate all the support you guys give the channel, and thank you for taking time out of your college football Saturday to watch this one. I am going down to Lincoln, Nebraska to watch Nebraska and Iowa, so hoping that'll be a fun game there. Again, Huskers need that one to get into bowl eligibility, but anyway, you guys saw the title, you guys saw the thumbnail, you guys know what I'm here to talk about today. It is the upcoming 12-team playoff field, and really my opinions on it, my thoughts on it. This is going to be a little bit more of an opinionated video. I'm hoping it's going to be a shorter video here as well. That just kind of is going to kind of take a look at why I think the playoff field expanding to 12 teams is going to be a really, really good thing for college football. I know there's a lot of skepticism about it. I know there are some people that don't really like it, that think four teams is well more than enough. But I think this year, when you compare it to any other year, this season that we're in the midst of right now is showing us why 12 teams is going to be a good thing down the line. Again, we'll talk more about that later. But hey, I just want to say thank you for all the support the channel has seen as of late. It does mean a lot to me. And if you want to continue to help show your support for the channel while watching this video is a huge way. But you can also hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when videos get uploaded. There are more ways than that to show your support for the channel. However, you're doing one of them right now just simply by watching this video, and you guys can do more by liking, commenting, sharing, and anything else that you guys may be willing and or able to do to help me support my channel. Whatever you guys are able to do does mean a lot to me, and again, that's really all I got for that. So without further ado, let's talk about the 12-team playoff. No fancy graphics, no whiteboard, no anything like that. It's just going to be me talking to you guys. So let's go ahead and talk about the 12-team playoff and why I think it is going to be such a good thing. Let's go all the way back to 2014, the first year of the 4-team field. Obviously, Alabama, Oregon, Florida State, and Ohio State were the 4 teams that ended up getting in. But right away, right off the bat, in the 4-team playoff era, we did have some controversy, right? Baylor and TCU. There was no Big 12 championship game back then. They were awarded co-champions of the Big 12. They said, hey, we're not really going to choose. We're not going to say whether or not Baylor's better. We're not going to say whether or not TCU is better. They're both really, really good, and they're both going to be co-champions. And then with the way that Ohio State went out and plastered Wisconsin in the Big 10 championship game, the committee had everything they needed to say, okay, well, if you're not going to claim a champion, this team did what they needed to do, did more than they needed to do in their conference championship game. They came out with the win. We're going to put them into the college football playoff, which in my opinion, even though you see the blanket behind me, rightfully so, right? Baylor fans and TCU fans were very upset at this decision, especially because 1 week TCU was sitting at number 3, and then all of a sudden you drop them all the way down to 6, right? So taking a look there at those two teams, at Baylor and TCU, I could understand why the frustration was as is, but there have been a whole lot more things down the line that have happened to kind of say, like, well, these teams also deserved a spot in the college football playoff, right? Iowa, you entered the Big Ten. Iowa in 2015, you entered the Big Ten championship defeated, and you end up losing that game to the Michigan State Spartans. Obviously, Michigan State ends up getting that bid, and then they get plastered by Bama. What about Stanford? As Pac-12 champs, they definitely had a case, even though they had 2 losses. Ohio State was sitting there with their 1 lone loss. Granted, it was late in the season, didn't make the Big Ten championship game, but it was against the team that made the playoff in the Michigan State Spartans. When you take a look at 2016, we all know the debate that happened with the Penn State Nittany Lions, right? Ohio State, even though they didn't make the Big Ten championship, got that bid to get into the college football playoff, and it left Penn State out to dry. Penn State ended up being number 5 there in those final rankings. And then again, these things continue. 2017, when you go ahead and take a look here at 2017. Obviously, there was the bid for both Ohio State and Wisconsin to get shots. Wisconsin was undefeated entering the conference title game. They ended up losing that one. They put two SEC teams in the playoff field. That's Georgia and the Alabama Crimson Tide there, even though the Crimson Tide did not end up making the SEC championship game. You go fast forward here to, that was 2017. You fast forward to 2018. Ohio State definitely had a case to get in there, as well as did the UCF Knights, being a team out of the group of five realm at that time. Of course, they're in the Big 12 now, but at the time, in a group of five realm, that definitely deserved a shot to get into the college football playoff, but they were hoisted aside. They were shunned. Really, one year where I didn't really see a whole lot of debate was 2019. Obviously, the four best teams were LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, and Oklahoma. Those are the four teams there that sat with 0 or 1 loss at the end of the year. They ended up getting in, although again, you could respectfully make cases for teams like Georgia and Oregon and Baylor and Florida and Wisconsin to have a shot to compete for a national championship. 2020, not really going to dive into that year because everyone played different amounts of games, and there was there was just a whole thing that went on there in 2020. 2021, hey, Notre Dame definitely had a case to get in. They elected to go with Cincinnati to get into the college football playoff, the first and to this point only group of five team that has ever gotten a bid, but Notre Dame definitely had a case to get in there as well. Really did not a lot of people surprised though Cincinnati ended up getting in. And then you fast forward back to last year. Again, last year worked out really nicely where Alabama, Tennessee, Clemson, they all kind of picked up their second loss. USC in the conference title game did as well. Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and Ohio State. That was what happened last year, which brings us into this year. And this year, especially to this point in the college football season, there really, I do not think, has been a bigger clump of teams that could make cases to get into the college football playoff when you sit down and you take a look at this year. As the current ranking stands, Georgia 11-0 at number 1. Ohio State and Michigan both 11-0, sitting 2 and 3. Again, that is going to work itself out this week, but both of those teams have great conversations to get into the college football playoff. Ohio State probably more so than Michigan, but Washington, you see them sitting there at number 4, also undefeated, 11-0. Florida State, who was at number 4 for a long time, now that Washington has built that resume, is on the outside looking in at number 5, but they still sit 11-0, and because Ohio State, Michigan will work itself out, Florida State wins out, likely you get in the college football playoff. But then Oregon sitting there at 10-1, great shot to go make their conference title game. Texas and Bama, if they take care of business this week, Texas against Texas Tech here on Friday, or today, again, whenever this video happens to be uploaded. Alabama on Saturday, and then both of them have their conference championship games. They could have some very good conversations to get in as well. So I do want to play a scenario out for you here, which again would be the ultimate chaos scenario in which there would be a ton of conversation in the college football playoff committee room. So we're going to say that pretty much all of the favorites here win out, and we're going to make this the best scenario for everybody to have as equal of a shot as each other to get into the college football playoffs. So, you also want to include Louisville in this conversation as well. They are behind Missouri, but they're sitting at number 10. Again, Louisville would need some chaos to happen for them to make it, but they still do have a shot to get into the college football playoffs. So let's go ahead and take a look at one scenario here. Again, only one scenario that would cause a whole ton of chaos and a lot of debate here in the room, right? So let's say that we're going to start with the SEC. So again, I don't have really any fancy graphics to help you guys out. So just make sure that you're keeping track at home. So we have the Alabama Crimson Tide. They finished 12-1 SEC champs. Georgia finishes 12-1 SEC runner-ups. Michigan goes out and beats Ohio State, which sends Ohio State to 11-1, but they have a good enough resume to where if chaos happens, they can make a case to get in. But then Michigan loses the Big Ten championship game inexplicably to the Iowa Hawkeyes. So the Buckeyes are sitting there at 11-1, no Big Ten title game berth. Michigan is sitting at 12-1 Big Ten title game berth, but they weren't able to win it, and Iowa wins, right? Washington and Oregon, they both take care of business this week. They meet in the Pac-12 championship game, and Oregon gets their revenge. So Oregon's sitting at 12-1 with the Pac-12 championship game, avenging their loss. Washington also sitting at 12-1 with their only loss being in the Pac-12 championship game. And then Florida State, they take care of business. They go on and they beat Florida, but they lose to Louisville in the ACC championship game. So now you're sitting with Florida State at 12-1, Louisville at 12-1 as well. And then finally Texas, they go out and they win the Big 12, so they're sitting at 12-1. Okay, that was a lot. Let's go ahead and take down the rankings here. Georgia, 12-1 SEC runner-ups. Ohio State, 11-1, no Big Ten title game berth. Michigan, 12-1 Big Ten title game runner-up. Washington, 12-1 Pac-12 runner-ups. Florida State, 12-1 ACC runner-ups. Oregon at 12-1, they're the Pac-12 champs. Texas at 12-1 are the Big 12 champs. Alabama at 12-1 are the SEC champs, and then Louisville at 12-1 are the ACC champs. That right there, 8 teams with only one loss, and all of them have at least one loss, right? In fact, all of them do have one loss. So there's a scenario like that now, look, there are some upsets that would have had to happen there, and there are some things that probably just likely will not happen. But if all of that does happen, I mean, there's going to be a whole lot of debate there. And I could sit into talking about who I think would make it in that scenario, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about taking a look at just moving forward and going on into the 12-team playoff. I have listed countless examples of teams that feel like they deserve to get a shot at competing for a national championship, and there are more teams this year, especially entering rivalry week, than we have seen in a very, very long time. Now, college football has this very nifty way of being able to work itself out, right? That's just what college football does. However, there are a lot of cases this year and a lot of very, very reasonable scenarios to have happen where there is definitely going to be cause for some discussion on who ends up getting the 4 and who ends up being left out at 5. And again, we could sit here going through scenarios, but I'd be sitting here all day. That's a video that's going to take place next week, right? Next week, we're going to be talking about college football playoff scenarios and what can happen in different championship games. But I think this season right here shows why 12 teams is going to be a very good thing, because again, you can make the case that even some 2-loss teams like Missouri, like Penn State, like Ole Miss, whose only 2 losses or again, Penn State, their only 2 losses right now to Ohio State and Michigan, 2 teams that sit inside of the top 3. Ole Miss, their only 2 losses are to Georgia and to the Alabama Crimson Tide, 2 teams that are sitting in the top 10 and still control their own destiny to get into the college football playoff. Oklahoma maybe could have a case there as well. You could definitely consider why the Missouri Tigers have a fairly solid case to get in as well. The Iowa Hawkeyes, if they win the Big Ten Conference, now what? What do you do with Iowa, right? There are just so many teams this year that even with an expanded playoff field have that case to get in. And I think that is what has made college football so exciting this year. It hasn't been the whole buildup of drama. It hasn't been the just influx of upsets that have come at us week in and week out. In fact, this has actually been one of the seasons where a lot of the top teams have just consistently done what they've needed to do, right? There have been some upsets, but they've taken place around the middle or towards the bottom of the rankings. There really has not been the huge, massive top 4 upset that has really shaken everything up in the college football world this year. That is what has made this season so special. It is not filled with absolute upset chaos. It is filled with just purebred, okay, we're going to have to decide now on the field, especially during championship week, who the better team is. Rivalry week is going to do that. Championship week is absolutely going to do that. I mean, you take a look here at just the way that the picture is shaping out. Georgia and Bama, that's, unless, again, catastrophe strikes this week, that's going to be a top 10 matchup in the SEC championship. Washington and Oregon, again, barring any sort of upset this week, going to be a top 10 matchup in the Pac-12 championship game. Florida State and Louisville, again, barring any sort of chaos, will also be a top 10 matchup. Ohio State, Michigan. Whoever wins that game is likely going to get an Iowa team that could potentially finish inside of the committee's top 15, depending on where everything else lands. Final rankings, at very least, they are going to finish inside the top 20, if not top 25, if they happen to drop that game to the Nebraska Cornhuskers here. There are going to be so many big games down the stretch. Ohio State, Michigan's one of them. Washington, Oregon has the potential to be one of them. Alabama, Georgia is going to be one of them. Florida State, Louisville is going to be one of them. Again, all of that barring any sort of chaos, but the final 2 weeks of this college football season are going to be as, if not more important than any other 2 weeks that the college football playoff era has seen up to this point. And yes, that is what makes the 4-team race here very, very exciting. But I think this season also shows why a 12-team field is needed, because really this year, I could look at anyone from Georgia all the way down to Bama, there 1 through 8, and you could sit there and you can tell me why this team is winning the national championship, and I would sit there and say, yeah, I agree with that. Anywhere from Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Washington, Florida State, Oregon, Texas, and Bama, you can sit there and you can make a case on, even with all the injuries going on, even with whatever, on why they deserve to be in the national picture and why they can go win a national championship. You may have to do a little bit of convincing to not only me, but I feel like most people on why the Louisville Cardinals are a team that's going to go win the national championship, but you can still make the case for it, right? You have 9 teams that have a fairly realistic shot at getting into the college football playoff this season. And yes, it's fantastic. And a lot of the people out there that are not a fan of the 12-team field may be sitting there and saying, but listen to what yourself is saying. 4 teams is great because, especially in a season like this, it matters, right? And it matters a whole lot. If we had a 12-team field right now, we would not be hyping up Ohio State, Michigan as much. We wouldn't be hyping up the potential of Washington, Oregon as much. We wouldn't be hyping up Georgia and Bama as much, because both of them are going to get into the college football playoff field anyway. And while that may be true, while you may be sitting there, and yes, I agree with everything that you out there may be saying, and I just said, and again, kind of guessing what the people out there are saying, right? I just feel like, especially in a year like this, I think a 12-team field would be a world of fun. Who wouldn't want to see like Georgia and Texas play 1 week and then the very next week have Georgia and Florida State go at it? Or maybe you get the Ohio State-Michigan rematch, not in the Big Ten title game, but in a college football playoff field, right? And again, potentially that could happen even this year, right? But in a year like this, just having the top teams go head-to-head every single week, I think is going to be a really, really, really big thing for the college football playoff moving forward. Now, is every year going to be like this? No, not at all. I think we as college football fans are very, very lucky this year to see the amount of contenders that are in the field that still have a realistic shot, and that you could reasonably make an argument for why they can go win a national championship. This year is special in that way. But I think moving forward, the 12-team field is going to be good. One, it's going to create for more opportunities for the Cincinnatis of the world. If you remember back to not that long ago, to 2021, when Cincinnati was the only, and to this point has still been the only Group of 5 team to get a shot at winning a national championship in the college football playoff. Now, it didn't go too well for them, but the fact is that they got their shot. Now, this year, again, there may not be that elite group of 5 team out there, and especially with all the conference realignment that happening, there are probably going to be less and less of those here moving forward down the line. But when you take a look at it at face value, it gives more teams the opportunity to go win national championships, which is what I like, right? And it's going to avoid the period from like 2015 all the way up until 2019 when, now look, this has never happened, and I hate the people that say it's the same 4 teams every year, because it actually has never been the same 4 teams every year. Fun fact, there has never been a duplicate college football playoff field where the 4 teams making it up are the exact same. It has just never happened. But to those of you people out there that are saying that, yes, it does get it gets very consistent and can be very, I hate to use this term, and I apologize to everyone out there for using it, but it can be very boring to see Alabama and Clemson match up in the national championship for the 17th consecutive season, right? It gives more teams opportunities. It gives a way for those surprise teams like Missouri, like maybe even an Arizona Wildcat team that, look, you went on a very, very good surprise run, but it's not really going to mean much. We'll stick you in a New Year's Six bowl game and good luck, right? Now those teams like the surprise teams back, some of the other surprise teams we've seen, Baylor, who's been a surprise team before, Minnesota, who's been a surprise team before, they're going to get their shot to go prove that, hey, what we've done this season is no fluke. Let's go out and compete with the highest level teams, right? Let's go out and compete with the big boys, quote unquote, and get in to the college football playoff. And you can't argue with this fact either. You cannot argue that people out there are not going to be excited to see playoff football, college football, playoff football being played on home fields. So, that could mean Texas going on the road to playing in Ann Arbor, Michigan in the first round in the wild card round of the college football playoff. You can't tell me you will not be excited to see that, right? You can't tell me that that is not going to be exciting to watch, having Texas go up to Ann Arbor in December or vice versa. Maybe having a team like Michigan or Ohio State or maybe Louisville travel to Autzen Stadium to play the Oregon Ducks in a college football playoff game in Autzen Stadium. The environments are going to be great. The hype is going to be great. I am, for one, very, very excited for this 12-team field. I've been calling for an expanded field for some time. And again, I think this year, I have said some teams in the past years. I've said at least one or two teams every single year that you could make the case for on why they belonged in the college football playoff. However, when you take a look at this year, I have just this feeling with the way this season has played out, there is going to be one, if not maybe two teams that are sitting home on Selection Sunday that say, what the heck, man? Why didn't we get in? We clearly are better than so-and-so who ended up getting in. And again, I'm not going to name teams because I don't know the way the season is going to play out, right? But that's just it, man. It's a very exciting time to be a college football fan. The end of this season is going to be really, really fun to watch. And then I think as we move forward to get into this 12-team playoff field, I just think it's going to be really good for the sport. And yes, I know there are going to be people out there that say it's all about the money. That's why they're doing this. Yeah, it's going to bring more money to college football. Should it make you excited? Should it make me, again, it's not going to make you excited. It's not going to make me excited. And why should it? We're not getting any of that, right? But as fans, I think you need to sit there and take a look at the 12-team playoff field, and you need to relish it and you need to cherish it, because I think it is going to do wonders for this sport. Not that the sport is dying, not that the sport is falling back, and I know there are people out there that are going to say this sport is being professionalized and the 12-team playoff is helping it and so on and so forth. It's just the nature of college football now. And I think moving forward, being able to look at this 12-team field, being able to give some of those surprise teams the chances that they get, sure, it may go ahead and take a look at a season like this and say, well, these past 2 weeks don't matter, right? You can never say that. Every game in college football matters. Every game in college football matters, and I think it's going to create a whole lot more meaningful games because now you're not just playing to get that first round bye, but you're also playing for home field advantage if you're not one of those teams to get that first round bye, right? There is a lot to play for here with conference realignment shaping up as well. It's just going to make for a very, very interesting season. I'm very excited to see how this season finishes out, but I'm also getting myself not prematurely excited for next year. I'm just very excited to see how the 12-team playoff system is going to work out. But I said this was going to be a little bit of a shorter video. Hey, I ramble sometimes. That's how I go. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on what you think the 12-team playoff system is going to look like, if you think it's going to be good or bad for the sport. Again, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. You just heard mine. I want to hear yours in the comment section down below. But hey, whether this was uploaded on Turkey Day, again, I hope you all had a good Turkey Day for those that celebrate. If this is uploaded on Friday, I'm at a football game right now, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your college football Friday and your college football Saturday. A lot of big games this weekend. Really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to watch this one in its entirety. If you made it through this far, thank you guys so much. But hey, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye. Enjoy your college football weekend.